So good day, everyone. Today we've got the legendary Arielle Guttman here to present for us the active transit Venus star point of VSP in short in the sign of Libra. We haven't had that since 1879 to 1880. I think that's when the last time there's a Libra VSP in the sky. So how are you, Arielle?
Yes, thank you, Donnie. Nice to be here. Nice to see you again.
Yes. It's momentous, right? This first Libra VSP.
Yes, yes. And I have to say, Donnie, I've been seeing you pop up all over YouTube and various outlets in terms of really working with the VSP, the Venus star points, and the continuing flow of the star. So thank you for that and your continued really interesting and brilliant insights into how the star points work in people's lives.
I mean, after learning and becoming a certified VSP practitioner, teacher, and coach, I've been looking at things in a different light or from a different perspective, at least.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking at the active 5 star points in the sky.
Yeah.
And how does that fit into the story of that person? And why are those people on the news right now as we speak?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a dimension of the chart that most astrologers don't look at. We're used to looking at the active transits of Pluto, Saturn, eclipses, nodes, whatever. And what's happening now with knowing that this Venus star clock is operating behind the zodiac and it's pinpointing certain points in the chart around, then we can see, yeah, we're getting a deeper dimension of it. So
I mean,
that's what our discussion will be about today, more or less.
I mean, you call the Venus star point of VSP as like a cosmic heartbeat.
Yeah, yeah.
I like to call it the cosmic highlighter.
Okay.
Because it highlights certain parts of the chart and it really brings it out to the forefront.
Get that little yellow marker out.
Yeah. Got yellow, got orange, you name it. So.
Orange. Green.
Green, you know, all the 5 typical colors, one for each star point.
Exactly. Right, right.
So do you have any slides regarding the Libra star point that you want to share with us?
I actually do. Let's see.
Let's jump straight to it, shall we?
Yeah, and so I just want people to know that we're going to only touch on a little tiny bit of the Venus star points today, but you can learn a lot more about it in either the ebook or the print book, which has the full story of how the star is made, how it comes about. Oh, there you go, Donnie. Thank you. Another happy reader. Okay. Thank you very much. But there has been an enormous amount of interest in this last month on the Venus star point, and a lot of it has to do with it changing into the sign of Libra for the first time in over 150 years. Yeah. The way the star clock moves, it moves the Venus star points, which are based, actually the star points or the cazimis are based on the Sun-Venus conjunction, and they happen every 9 months, but they happen every 8 years. There's 2 full stars created, a full evening set and a full morning star set. You don't have to know the mechanics of all of this to actually understand and appreciate what these points mean to you in your own chart. But the more you delve into it, the more you're going to see some very deeper, a lot of deeper meaning. And I connect it to the heart. I call it the cosmic heartbeat because it is the Sun Venus, which is actually, from Earth's perspective, from the sun's perspective, it's who is the center of the solar system. It's Earth and Venus connecting. It's Earth and Venus. It's the Earth-Venus dance going around the sun. And so it is a partnership. It's a pair. It's when they meet. I call it the kiss, the cosmic kiss, or the technical word is cazimi. But what it means is when Venus or any planet is in the heart of the sun. And in this case, it's Venus in the heart of the sun. So just the idea of a planet being in the heart of the sun brings a kind of a light and energy and upliftment. And because Venus is love and the heart connection to Earth, I feel like it is a laser beam of light shooting through the heart of Venus to the Earth, the body, ourselves, before we were born, which is when our cellular development was being created. So we looked to the Venus star point just before we were born to see, okay, where do we fit on this star, and how are we navigating through life from a heart-centered place. So that, in a kind of a nutshell, is what the Venus star point is all about. And there's an easy table to find out how you can get there too. But I think the main point to make is that we are in a shifting time zone right now. Literally, all the time zones are shifting this week, and a lot around the world. But we're in a shifting time period in terms of the whole world and the whole cultural phenomenon of where we have been for the last 100 years. And I think this is an important point to mention. Because we haven't been to Libra, the Venus star hasn't been to Libra since the inception of the star was 1771, 251 years ago. 251 years ago. That's a whole cycle, 251 years, is the fact that if you look at 1771, it ingressed into Libra at 29. It always comes in through the back door to the higher degree because it's moving clockwise around the zodiac, away in the opposite direction that the planets are moving. But if you compare that to now, 1771 pretty much equals 2022. This is the first time, in other words, now since 1771 that we've had 29 Libra on the star. And then if you go 4 years later, we go back to Scorpio, the first degree of Scorpio for the last Scorpio star point. And 4 years from now, we go back to Scorpio for the last Scorpio star point. 1779, 4 years after that, we're in Libra to stay. And now it's going to start moving through Libra sequentially, 27, 28, and it's going to go back to 25, and for 100 years go through Libra back down to zero. And so this happens in 2030 when we're in Libra to stay. And 2034, of course, is a continuation of Libra. But the idea being that we're in a giant transitional period right now in the 2020s from the perspective of the Venus star. We're having our first Libra star point, and then we're having our last Scorpio star point, and then we're having Libra to stay. So it's sort of like when an outer planet moves through a sign on the cusp, you know, like Pluto will do next year. It'll dip into Aquarius, and then it'll come back to Capricorn again for a time. And so everybody's all excited about, oh, Pluto's going into Aquarius, but it's not quite finished with Capricorn yet.
Not quite.
And the really poignant point about this is that Pluto is in the last degrees of cardinal signs, going through the beginning of the fixed sign, Aquarius, at the same time that the Venus star point is in the last degrees of cardinal signs, 29 Libra, going back into 0, 1 degree Scorpio, early fixed signs. So Pluto and the Venus star right now are really tracking together in a square. And what is Pluto? Pluto's about power. It's about control. It's about pushing and really pushing for things to change. And so there's a lot of, I've noticed through the years that when a sign phases out, or anything phases out really, when it's in its last period, when it's in its last months or years of the cycle, it's sort of making its last gasp, like dying, its last dying gasp, and it wants to come back to life in a very, very big way. But the power isn't there anymore for it to sustain itself. It really is dying out. I relate it to, have you ever seen, well, it can be in or outside of a glass, but a candle burning in a tall glass, when it comes down to the very last flicker, suddenly it gets really bright for just a moment, like, help me, I'm dying. And then it fades out again. And this is how I feel about Scorpio in terms of its cultural impact and influence in our world right now. It's got one last dying breath to take, and Libra then will take over. But I think even immediately before we go back to the Scorpio point, we're getting a preview now. 2022 till 2026 will be more or less the preview of coming attractions, or the trailer for the Libra star point, you know, in general. We're already seeing Libra, which deals with the courts and justice and the law and balance and fairness and so forth. I think we're already seeing a lot of court cases. What's interesting about our time and the 1770s and 80s, of course, as we know, in the 1770s, the United States was created. And we are talking about the Pluto return now for the United States, which is definitely happening. And it couldn't be happening in a more, you know, aggressive way in terms of people on both sides claiming they're fighting for democracy. But is this democracy that was created back then and now going through its return period, is it going to last, or is it going to change, or is it going to become something new? My feeling is all kind of, it's changing, it's going to become something new. And we have these years in the future to look to in terms of, because, you know, democracy is actually on trial right now as we speak. We're still having the January 6th hearings of the attempt to overthrow the Capitol. And it's, you know, there's both sides, you know, kind of really, we're not going together. We're not in a cooperative spirit yet. Libra wants cooperation and partnership, and hey, you know, okay, I'll give you this. You know, it's a barter system in a way. The fundamentals of Libra and the scales of balance. You know, what were scales used for in the way back when? And Libra is, you know, obviously portrayed by a set of scales. Scales were used to weigh goods, and like even now, you know, you go buy your fruits and vegetables at the market, and somebody's always putting them on the scale to say, okay, how much do they weigh and how much do you owe me?
Yeah.
You know, this is the exchange. Okay. So in politics and in partnership, in corporate dealings, in everything, the spirit of Libra and the fair exchange will come back. It will come back. I think with Scorpio, it's been more of a competitive kind of exchange. Okay, this really isn't a fair exchange. I'm going to charge a little bit more because I know I can get it, or whatever. This is how it's been. So we're going to balance the scales. Eventually we're going to balance the scales, and it's starting now. Start watching for small things to indicate that this is true.
Do you reckon the social media landscape is undergoing a very huge revamp? Because I think it's recently on the news that the stock price of Facebook from the beginning of this year, it literally start tanking all the way till now. And I basically looked at the chart of Mark Zuckerberg.
Okay. It's a good one to start with for Facebook.
But I don't have his reliable birth time because that ain't any. But what's really interesting is that he's got Mercury at 29 degrees of Aries.
Okay, Mercury. All right.
Opposing 0 degrees Scorpio Pluto. So
okay, so he's right in that right now.
He's right in that right now. Yeah.
Well, you know, he changed this year to Meta, right?
Right.
Facebook became Meta.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are big changes on the landscape for him. But I think the reason that, if you're saying that the stock prices of Facebook have taken a nosedive, I think it's because people are not getting from Facebook what they really want anymore.
Yeah.
It's become a kind of a ferocious platform for people to be on. And a lot of people, well, that I know personally have said, I just don't use Facebook anymore. Because it's not a harmonious or pleasant place to be for the most part. Now, we as astrologers use that platform. I do, to announce certain things. And of course, I'm on the other side of the world right now, so to connect with family and friends, it's a good thing to do. But I have to say, I can't really make too much in the way of astrological statements anymore,
right,
on any of these social media platforms, because immediately somebody's going to come back and just slam you with, you know, oh, well, you didn't say this, or you should have said that, or why did you say this? And it's sort of like, well, okay, why don't you go to somebody else's channel or page if you want to hear that? Because that's not what I'm going to say.
Or the post gets reported and it gets taken down.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
What's really interesting pertaining to this particular VSP at 29 Libra is that I think in April there's a hybrid solar eclipse at 29 degrees of Aries.
I know, I noticed that. Yeah.
So probably I would think that April to May, the eclipse time frame, this Venus star point at 29 Libra that we are having is going to be really activated.
Yes,
I've
and
also
it's
looked
matching this eclipse series right now.
Yeah. And if I recall, I think in May, transit Mars will be at 29 Cancer.
Yes, I think there's a huge cardinal square. Now that's going to be an interesting thing. I have another slide here that has to do with, here it is. Talk about the cardinal. presence in our world. I mean, cardinal is action. So people are going to, we are going to see some things get done. We are going to see some movement going on. Okay. The really interesting thing about now, which is very unusual for the star to have, I mean, the 5-pointed star of Venus, there's 5 points, and in astrology there's 4 elements. And so typically there's one element that dominates the star, that there's a double of. And so for the last 40 years, 40-some, almost close to 40 years, it's been fire. We've had double fire with Aries and Leo on the star. And then we had Capricorn, Scorpio, and Gemini, representing one of each of the other elements. Capricorn, earth, Scorpio, water, and Gemini, air. But now we're going to have 2 air signs on the star and 2 fire signs and only 1 earth sign and no water. The no water situation, well, in 2026, Scorpio will come back for one last pass, but until 2041, when Pisces is born, the Pisces star is born, there will absolutely be no water. And I mean, we can literally look at this and compare it to the situation on Earth. Are we going to have a water crisis? People are talking about that already. They have been talking about that for 20 years or so. Is there going to be a water crisis? Most likely there will be. Yeah, good, clean water, good, clean, I mean, the air in general, having double air on the star is also going to bring us the need to pay more attention to the environment and to the air, the quality of air that we breathe. I mean, otherwise, we're going to all be going around as if we had COVID again, or some other, and viruses, airborne diseases are going to be possible again, especially from dirty air and dirty water. Things like that can cause infectious disease. And so are we all going to be in a world wearing masks again, everybody, perpetually, forever? Are we going to use this opportunity because necessity is the mother of invention, to say, hey, we have a crisis now, we have to solve it? And I do believe, actually, I do believe in the technological geniuses and the scientific and engineering geniuses that we have on Earth right now to be able to come up with plans to save the planet. Although more recently I said, and I said it kind of tongue-in-cheek, but I'm wondering if it's really true, that I believe the survival of the Earth is going to depend on AI rather than the human mind. And that's a double-edged sword, coming back to Libra, which is a double-edged sword, which is that, okay, AI can solve a lot of problems for us, but on the other hand, AI can put humans into a situation where we become sort of non-relevant. So we'll see.
Well,
we'll see what happens.
AI can only do so much, right? In terms of, it's to replace like the mundane jobs, that it gets too repetitive for humans.
Well,
but I do see that because this Libra star point will be squaring Pluto, and when the 0-degree Scorpio star point comes back, it'll still be squaring Pluto as well, but it will be Pluto in Aquarius. I think we will see really the implementation of a lot of AI that we've not seen before in the middle of the 2020s.
Yeah, that's what I see too.
Yeah. And that's because also
Because what is this retooling about? You
yeah.
know, it's about it's about some major things on the earth. This star sign change, because they happen so rarely, and because they do influence big changes in society, in culture, in politics, in economics, in everything when it comes right down to it.
Mm.
I've looked at every star point sign change in history since about the 1700s, and I've noticed that, yeah, that it may not happen the day of, but it's like a trend, you know, that's starting to emerge, and then it grows bigger and bigger as that star gains more influence and power.
And also from the middle of the 2020s, we've got transit Uranus that will be eventually kissing the Gemini star point as well.
Yes, right.
So usually when I see Pluto and Uranus in sister signs, this time it will be air signs from the middle of the 2020s onwards. I think there will be some very relevant AI that's here to stay.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a long time to come. I've seen that before. Yeah.
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 Right. Exactly. So we're in for some interesting times, as they say.
Well, I mean,
As if we're not in them already, but
these 2 decades is gonna be, yeah, quite a ride because we've got 2 Mars root star points that's been active for most of our lives, which are Aries and Scorpio. They are both going to be phased out and be replaced by Libra and Pisces, where Venus function very well in.
yeah,
So.
exactly. And that's a point I made in the book way back when. This is why when I started writing the book and working on it between 2004 and 2011 when it was published, that I started feeling a surge of hopefulness and light fill me with the prospect of the star moving towards Venus and away from Mars influence, you know, because all our life it's been in the Martian zone. And now we're moving slowly towards the Venus zone. It's like a pendulum that swings from Mars to Venus and back and forth through time, slowly. Yeah. Yeah.
More peace on Earth, I hope.
Well, that's what we hope for, of course. Peace on Earth. You know, what we say every year at Christmas, peace on earth, goodwill towards men, women, everybody, you know. Let's see, I have a couple of other slides. Oh, here's an interesting one. So talk about sign shifts. If we look at the birth of the Scorpio star, it was in the 1920s, 1926 to be precise. And 100 years before that, we had the Sagittarius star. And of course, the primary mode of transportation and also the primary mode of, let's say, the economy-based industry were around horses and carriages, carriage makers, horseshoers, people that bred horses for this particular thing. The horse was the thing, and I thought it was also the Wild West in America and the mystique of the cowboy and the Wild West and the horse and the rodeo and all of that. That came to a close in the 1920s, and basically the horse was replaced by the automobile, fueled by petroleum, which was the new Scorpio gold. And I thought, okay, what an interesting thing to think about as the Scorpio star phases out in the mid-2020s and it reaches its last degree in 2026, exactly 100 years after it began. Does this also mean that this new Scorpio gold, petroleum, the petroleum industry is going to be going through a crisis and a changeover and, you know, a sort of a death. Because Libra wants clean air, Libra wants beautiful air, Libra wants automobiles powered by something that is maybe better for the whole planet. And I also think that we really have already been investigating and exploring ideas about alternative energies. So I think this is another thing that could come forth.
What's really interesting here is that the classic transit configuration in the sky, which is Neptune and Pluto in sextile, they will no longer be sextiling each other in the early 2030s. That is when the Libra VenusStarPoint fully phase in our world, by the way. So that Neptune and Pluto sextile in the sky, I think it will last to 2032, if I recall. That's the
using
combination.
What degree or are you using for that?
I think around like 4 degrees sextile.
4?
Yeah, 4. Yeah. So that Neptune sextile Pluto is the configuration that really enabled the oil and gas exploration. And they will no longer be sextile, I think, from 2032 onwards. So
interesting point. Okay, I hadn't thought about Neptune and Pluto and that whole idea.
And
with,
that and that will be the first morning star.
Cycle. You know, this is what I was seeing with the Venus star, is it gives you much longer cycles in astrology than Pluto does. Pluto in a sign, the maximum it can stay in a sign is what, 35 years? And the minimum is about 14 years or something. And so it's not long enough to really say what's been going on for a whole century. And the star points, which really cover a whole century from their inception to their transition phase, is basically a good way to track certain very strong points in the historical dynamic. But that Neptune Pluto sextile that you're talking about is an interesting thing to think about, because it's been in effect for how long?
I think since the second half of the 20th century. Yeah, it's
because
been
I was born with that, and I was born in just at the beginning of the second half of the 20th century, and it has lasted for quite a time.
Yeah.
And so what has that really been saying to us? You know, what that Pluto-Neptune sextile? Yeah.
Good for thought. Yeah,
exactly. But the other thing I see with the disappearance of the Scorpio star has brought themes in the culture, really violent themes, very destructive, very dark, pervading the cultural landscape. Not only do mass shootings proliferate, you know, in our country, but in all around the world now, they're happening, including children who are not safe to even go to school anymore. And you can't walk out of a store into a mall, for instance, a shopping mall, into a parking lot without being gunned down in some cases. And we've had all these dark themes in video games and in the movies and in television and in the whole art. You know, the whole cultural phenomena has been around these dark themes. So I'm thinking when we leave Scorpio and go into Libra, It's going to bring in a wave of a new type of artistic expression. And I'm looking forward to that too.
More classical. Yeah.
Yeah, classical music, for instance. So the other thing that I'm seeing come up for that is the fact that, okay, we've already talked about the Libra star now, and then 4 years from now, Scorpio, the last occurrence, and then 2030 is the first appearance of Libra as a morning star. Right now, it's an evening star. So with Libra ascending and Aries and both Scorpio descending, what does this mean for our collective? It means that we have a chance to come out of the me culture that's dominated the world and move more into a partnership dynamic, or the we culture. That factor is growing and actually is necessary for our evolution. And it's necessary for our survival as well. I don't think we can keep going on the competitive me against you type of
Dynamic
to keep us going, to keep us moving forward. And so as we look ahead, 2037 is the first, it's the last appearance of the Aries star. 2037, we can say goodbye to Aries. That'll be the last one. 2041, 4 years later, will be the first appearance, morning star, of the Pisces. So, you know, that's an interesting shift that we're having. 2 Mars signs retreating, 2 Venus signs rising.
I'm just wondering though, like with this ingress of the Libra star point in 2022, that this decade will be this era of being politically correct, which is Libra as well. Because Libra is the sign where Saturn is exalted. So is that social fabric.
Yeah.
Like we have to agree with, like, as a collective, and I don't think it'll get resolved when the Aries Venus star point is still active.
Right,
sad to say, but it'll take a while with that.
Right. No, but I think, you know, people are getting tired of war and fighting and this craziness that's going on. I just think that as we go through this shift, people are just going to they're going to be becoming more and more not wanting to support that, not wanting to engage in that. And so I think I do see it as a positive time. Another thing that happened at the beginning of the last period of the Libra star was these 2 very well-known women suffragettes who began this suffragette movement in the United States. Elizabeth Cady Stanton was a Libra morning star, and Susan B. Anthony was a Libra evening star. And Libra represents the scales of justice and equality. And they came together to fight for women's rights and to really get women the right to vote. It didn't happen until later on, much later after they were gone, but they started a movement that didn't really die, that just kept moving forward to make that happen. We're facing another level of, you know, coming into the Libra star about women's rights. I mean, this time it's about women's reproductive rights, not just women's voting rights, but women's reproductive rights, which is a very big issue and a very personal kind of thing. And that's on trial right now as well. So, but again, Libra's going to support women having the right to choose. It's not going to be that their bodies are going to be legislated and controlled. I don't think they'll have it. Women have become very empowered. And one thing I will say about the Aries star point of the last 100 years, and even the Scorpio star point, is that women ruled by, in some ways, Venus, have become very outspoken, very dynamic, very empowered, and will not stand for certain things anymore. They will not stand for people telling them what to do, what they can and can't do, especially men telling women what they can and can't do.
Do you also reckon that there'll be a definition of what femininity and what being a woman is? Why am I saying that is that I've recently read on the news that you know, the Miss Universe pageant,
Yeah, yeah.
that
I
franchise formerly
vaguely
owned
know
by
about it, but yeah, yeah.
that French that how to call that franchise, I suppose you can call it that.
Franchise,
Formerly
probably is.
formerly owned by Donald Trump, is now sold to a transgender female Thai businesswoman.
Oh,
I think she's
okay.
one of the richest transgender person on earth, and she, pronounced, bought the rights to the Miss Universe franchise. So I wonder if that will also impact the definition of what a woman is, and perhaps, you know, next time when we see Miss Universe, we may have like a mixture of representation.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, in that sense.
Well, that's an interesting move. First of all, to have the Miss Universe
Right.
contest owned by a woman is a big step forward.
Right. Yeah.
And I think more women will become involved in whether they were born as a woman or whether they transited as into femininity, the feminine gender in their lives. It doesn't really matter that they declare that they are a woman, that I am a woman, okay? I think they're going to be having more power in terms of buying and controlling companies, and getting also more invested in investments and funding to interests that support them. And so they are going to become a power dynamic in the coming years. Yeah.
Because Libra is also about representation, right? In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And it's about public relations and also like advertising, all those things.
Yep.
Yeah.
So basically, the last Libra Venus star, what really went on there? Well, it's a large chunk of history to be able to kind of break it down into, what was the main theme. But I think what we started to see in this time in the last Libra star point was equality in class structures. The hierarchical systems of class started to break down. And not just class, but racial and gender. The class system in Britain was beginning to show signs of erosion with the onset of the Industrial Revolution. These two women that I mentioned before, worked tirelessly to pave the way for others to follow in terms of giving women the right to vote and to address other gender equality issues. Abraham Lincoln, one of the more revered presidents of the United States, was born in 1809 in the heart of the Libra VSP period. Although he himself was a Leo VSP, that was the helping hand on the pentagram on the five-pointed star. You have these helping hands and foundational feet of the other four stars that are in effect at the time you were born. And he had 21 Libra on his helping hand, pretty closely conjunct his natal Mars in Libra. So Mars on his hand trining his natal sun and ascendant in Aquarius by initiating military action, which is Mars, to engender an outcome which would both abolish slavery in the United States. His efforts at the time were, I still haven't changed this slide. That's supposed to say something else. What it was supposed to say, I don't know. But anyway, it came out
Monumental, I think that's what you meant.
Magical. Maybe
Monumental,
it's monumental. Anyway, his star still shines because he's remembered as one of the greatest presidents of all time in the 250-year history of the United States. So that's another way that Mars can actually be productive. And, you know, let's not just be trashing Mars. You know, Mars has a place in the planetary sphere, as all the planets do. And Mars requires courage. And what that means is it just doesn't mean courage of I'm going to do something. Courage in the face of adversity or in the face of a lot of other people either questioning what you want to do or trying to block what you want to do or trying to say you're crazy or it's not going to work or whatever. You have the courage to push through all that and say, I'm going to do it because it's in me to do. And that's what he did. It wasn't popular at the time. I mean, there were both sides. There was a lot of debate on both sides, whether this was going to be a good thing for the country or not a good thing for the country. But, you know, it's like it takes a certain amount of strength and fortitude and character will to push your agenda in the face of so much opposition. So these are just other examples of, we don't have to get into that now, because I know, Donnie, you have a lot of current examples, and we want to get to them before we run out of time.
So, so for the purpose of this little presentation on the Libra Venus star point, what I'm showing here is the 5 active star points that's in the sky right now that's impacting us on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And the head of the...
That's a beautiful diagram, Donnie.
So the head of the Venus star will be what we are having now at 29 degrees 26 minutes of Libra. But then what's on the left of the star will be what's come before now, which is the Capricorn star point, which we've had for the bulk of 2022. And then one further back will be the Aries Venus star point that was active in March of 2021 all the way to January of 2022, right before the Sun and Venus actually embraced or kissed at 18 degrees 46 minutes of Capricorn. On the right of the Venus star will be what is already manifesting itself already, but we probably have not felt the full impact of it because we are not currently running the star point itself, as in it has not formed in the sky. So the one that's coming up will be the Leo star point at 20 degrees 28 minutes of Leo, and this one will be another interesting one which we'll discuss probably next year with Arielle, because this star point will be squaring Uranus close to exact. And then the one after the Leo star point will be the foot of the star. So how you would see this will be for the Libra star point is the head of the star, and then the Capricorn and the Leo star points are the arms, and the Aries and the Gemini star point are the feet of the Venus star. So this is what we have. And Now let's go on to the application part in which I'm interested in exploring. So since he has just been appointed as Prime Minister of the UK, and we've been talking about the UK just now, let us look at Rishi Sunak's chart. Let me just look for that. So he's born 12th of May 1980. So he's the youngest PM and also person of color to be the PM of the UK. And he's also the richest, by the way. If I recall, it's reported that he actually married a tech billionaire's daughter, and their combined net worth is more than King Charles's twice over.
Okay.
So that is what we are looking at.
Are we seeing a little bit of shifting from out of the Scorpio star now to Libra, and a power balance that comes forth from another side?
Yes. And with this chart that's rectified, by the way, I've plotted the 5 active transit Venus star points to his chart to just have a look at
what is his natal Venus star point.
I think his natal Venus star point is I think he's born as a Virgo, but then with progression he will turn into a Gemini.
Yeah, I thought maybe he was very mercurial on this star. Yeah, that's true. The star, he was born in May of 1980. The star shifted in June of 1980, but so before that, his prenatal star is 2 Virgo evening star, and his progressed going into his life, the rest of his life, 24 Gemini morning star.
So his I would call natal Venus star point. Mars is exactly bang on top. Yeah.
Jupiter, Mars. Wow.
And he's also got other planets at 0 degrees, which include Venus and also the moon as well. Very potent. And Venus and the moon are in mutual reception in each other's sign. And this links up with that Mars and Jupiter in this configuration or chart aspect pattern, which is called the minor grand trine, which is a trine with 2 sextiles, all aiming at that Venus in the 7th house of marriage. And Venus rules that very potent angular Pluto close to the midheaven. So he's known for having a very rich spouse. In other words.
And this is a confirmed birth time?
This birth time is rectified, but I have tested it to show that it holds up, and it has held up pretty well. Put it that way. So the current 29 degrees 26 minutes Libra star point in transit is falling into his 10th house, so very prominent. 10th house is really what you're famous for, or infamous for, or notorious for, depending what you're up to. And what's coming up next is very telling, because right after this Libra star point, we do have a 20 degrees 28 minutes Leo star point that is exactly squaring his Sun and Mercury in Taurus, and also squaring that Uranus. This is the one that really caught my eye. So what I'm thinking is that perhaps his time as the role of PM may not be as long as well. Probably longer than Liz Truss. Probably longer than 44 days. I think that's how long she's there for.
I'm sure we can count on that.
But that upcoming Leo star point that will be squaring his Sun, Uranus, and Mercury opposition. I think there will be this kind of, because Uranus actually reminds me of referendum, particularly in the 11th house, that perhaps there might be a general election that might be pushed forward. That could be one of the reasons why that he may not be there for as long as he would like. And not to forget that there will be an annular solar eclipse in the middle of October next year that will be pretty closely eclipsing his midheaven as well, and Pluto as well. So solar eclipse around this point in his chart can also be that new beginnings, for better or for worse, pertaining to his political aspirations, which is that Pluto MC combination. And also I've plotted in some Arabic parts or lots. And he does have one very interesting one, which is P3. Where's P3? Over here, which is part of profession. And there will be another solar eclipse happening in late April of next year, 2023, at 29 degrees of Aries, activating that 29 degrees Libra star point, and also squaring his natal part of profession. So there's something going on that doesn't hold up professionally.
If there is, I would say that it's a conflict in interest between his money, his family money, and what they're invested into, and the actual policies of the UK government, and just because of all that Taurus, Scorpio, and as you mentioned, Uranus, not only at 23 Scorpio, but transiting Uranus is going to come, you know, dancing around that whole configuration as well.
Yeah, that transit Uranus next year will be hovering over his Sun-Mercury conjunction as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of
don't forget, anybody with Pluto close to the midheaven like he has is not going to have a life without controversy.
Right.
And scandal and undercover, behind the scenes kind of dealings and all of that. So we can sort of expect that. And
because Pluto in his chart very much is talking about the spouse, because Pluto is ruled by Venus in the 7th house of marriage partners, I think it's already been known that the wife has been has been evading taxes. So very much that Pluto, Pluto is about taxes as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, controversy, all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So for the detailed analysis, I suppose the audience can read whatever I've written here, but I just want to point out that usually what we plot are the 5 active transit star points in the sky, and then see what's the unfolding story. It's like an evolutionary spiral, which is the Venus star.
Yeah.
So let us go to the other key person of interest, which is Elon.
Oh yeah.
Because a few days after this Libra star point came into effect, well, the Twitter deal did go through, and he's planning to unban controversial figures that were previously banned from Twitter. And of course, he also changed a lot of the upper management personnel. I think he fired the top 4 people in Twitter the day he actually moved his stuff, including a sink. I don't know what is it for, but into his
A sink.
a
Okay.
sink. Literally, he's carrying a sink. So I don't know if it's some ominous message or something, or he's trying to tell us something, but you know, he's always
Right. That's gotta mean something, doesn't it?
yeah. And
Well,
this
I was impressed with how much his chart kind of fits in with the US natal chart, because he's got his sun's at 5 Cancer, which is on the Venus-Jupiter conjunction of the United States. That's in early Cancer, both those points. And his Mercury's at 13 Cancer, which is the United States sun. So he's got, and it's in his second house. Of course, you have a birth time here for him. I haven't seen
this
it.
is also rectified, but I've also tested this
Okay.
chart. It holds up pretty well. Yeah.
But still, it's a sign of wealth and, having done quite well in the United States, because obviously he's another one who came to the US as an immigrant. And born in South Africa, and I think he spent some time in Canada for a while as well, before coming to the U.S. But he's done very well there. He's also got. I had done an article on him earlier this year for the VenusStarPoint newsletter, and I had when he was first announcing plans to buy Twitter, and then the deal was put on hold. But transiting Uranus at the time was at 17 Taurus, and his Venus star point, I don't know if you have it in here, but no, I don't see it, but his Venus star point is actually at 17 Scorpio, 1971. He was born 17 and a half Scorpio is his star point.
Pretty much bang on then, yeah.
Right where Uranus is still hasn't finished. And so I wasn't surprised that the deal was put on hold for a little while, because with Uranus, things always, there's all these sudden changes and distractions and, whatever. But now he's here. And of course, Uranus is still moving through that area of the zodiac, and I think it's going to be going across his star point until April of next year, as I recall. So it's not over.
Yeah, and the current Libra Venus star point by transit is in his 6th house. So yeah, new work environment. I don't know where the sink still comes in, but it's okay.
But I mean, you have to admire the beauty of the aspect, of the timing of the aspect, because as we speak, Uranus is at 17 and a half Taurus, and his star point is 17 and a half Scorpio. So, there you get a living example of how it's working for him.
Oh yeah. So this is very much happening in terms of timeline perfect, because the US midterm elections are just around the corner. I think it's on the day of the total lunar eclipse.
Yes, right. At 16 Taurus,
yeah,
right?
the 16 Taurus.
Right.
Oh, so that's why this rectified chart, it holds up pretty well in terms of that. And not to mention that if I were to input the vertex, his vertex will be around 19 degrees of Capricorn. That's where the last star point was, less than a degree, give or take, but it's still very much significant.
Yeah.
And what's coming up will be the Leo star point on his natal 4th house cusp. So some stuff that's coming up pertaining to property, or or maybe expand his family.
Yeah.
I think he's now got like 10 kids via artificial insemination. So more to come.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Gemini Venus star point is falling into his first house. So hence Twitter, you know, Bird, Twitter, Mercury, Gemini, all those
Yeah.
things are coming in.
Mm-hmm.
So if you plot the 5 star points, it actually paints a story. And it's all
Mm-hmm.
happening when the active star point, the head of the star, is falling into his 6th house.
Yeah.
Of work, which is one of the earth houses or material houses.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've got time for one more. I've got clusters of charts.
Well, who do you want to talk about?
Since we're talking about the UK just now, why not we look at someone of interest?
Harry.
Of course, the Harkles. Why do
The
I want to?
Harkles.
Well, Harry and Mark.
Is that what they're called? The Harkles?
Yeah, or the former Duke and Duchess of Montecito, California.
Oh.
I think they've moved out of Montecito, California.
Oh, they have. Where are they now?
Hope Ranch. Oh, I don't know where's that, but I've thought it's just too much to keep up. Yeah. So why do I want to talk about?
I hope he has horses on the ranch, because look he's got 3 planets in Sagittarius. And,
and he does play on the horse, like that polo thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So he does that.
So maybe they'll be into breeding really fine thoroughbred horses or something.
The important thing here is that I think his book, tell-all book, will be dropping in January. I think the title is called Spare.
Yes.
Because, and then there's the Netflix docuseries that's coming out as well. I don't know if either one of this will materialize, but what's really interesting is that look at where 29 degrees, 26 minutes of Libra is falling into his natal chart, the 9th house of mass media. So Netflix docuseries, tell-all, book, publisher, all those things. And I think the publishers are actually, because I think he's got a massive cash advance in order to complete this, like, was it 3-part book deal? So I wonder if that will even go to completion in that sense.
Well, this current Venus star point is conjunct Pluto.
Yes.
In Scorpio.
Yeah. A very strong Pluto. So, but having said that, Pluto can also...
It also has, a star point conjunct one's natal Pluto has to do with a lot of separation.
Yes.
And new life. Letting go of the old, coming into the new. So there's really a big split in terms of his, he's been feeling this even leading up to the Libra star point for a while now. The fact that he is got that Pluto there, and all the things he said and all the things that Megan has said to distance himself from his family. And yet, I think for Harry, it's a very conflicted state of being, because he is Capricorn rising and he does have a certain tie and support to, the traditions of his family. And his Venus is in Libra. So he wants to be, he wants to keep peace.
8th house is also the place where we feel kind of abandoned as well.
Yeah.
So with that Sun, Mercury, and Venus there, and part of fortune, it's quite a lot. Yeah, that, and
Yeah.
hence his book titled Spare, because he feels like he's like the spare one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and not to forget that he's a Capricorn rising, and the previous Venus star point is also in Capricorn. So Capricorn also rules the action of canceling. It's almost like he's being casted out and being cancelled by the royal family as well. So I'm actually thinking that since this current Libra star point is in his ninth house, if the book and the Netflix docuseries actually comes out, I think he'll be toast. Yeah. That's what I
You
see.
don't see him you don't see the Netflix series and the book being successful for him.
I don't. Not with the star points and the houses in which they fall in, and of course the aspects as well, after some analysis. But what's really telling will be the one coming up, because the Leo star point at 20 degrees 28 minutes is a morning star, because Venus will be retrograde next year in the sign of Leo.
Right.
It's landing pretty close to his vertex in the seventh house, which is referring to Megan, which is a Leo, by the way, conjunct the North Node.
Yeah, she is a Leo. Yeah.
Yeah. And if I were to look at the aspects of this Leo star point, is pretty tightly square his seventh house ruler, which is the moon in Taurus, in the fourth house. This is telling me that trouble is in paradise, be it Montecito, California, or somewhere else, pertaining to the marriage, because it does square the seventh house ruler. And by the way, Megan is a Cancer rising, so it's even more so referring to her. And there's some things pertaining to going, because fourth house moon, right, also tells me that he might be returning to the UK, homeland, fourth house. That's why he feels more emotionally moon grounded, Taurus, and stable as well. And Uranus is approaching the moon as well. So there's this kind of, people have been speculating, but I do see it for myself that Harry doesn't look well, like that mental health issues that might be coming up for him as well. But on the funnier side, I don't know whether Harry will pull like Katie Holmes. By the way, do you know how Katie Holmes actually escaped from Tom Cruise?
No, tell us.
So literally, it's like that Tom Cruise don't see it coming. And suddenly, like, Katie Holmes just packed up and just like went off, with the daughter, and just like, call it a day.
Get me out of here, please.
Yeah. So it's that kind of energy that I got from the Leo star point aspects. But this Libra star point in the ninth house is also holy matrimony.
You think he's gonna pack up and take the kids with him?
I think he's gonna pull a Katie Holmes.
Oh, okay. Well, that's something. We'll be on the watch. We'll be on the lookout for that.
Yeah. And not to forget that that 29-degree Aries hybrid solar eclipse that will be coming up in late April of 2023. It will be opposing, although it's out of sign, it'll still be opposing his Pluto.
Yeah.
And reactivating that that Libra 29-degree transit Venus star point. And also in the month of May as well, you've got transit Mars that will be falling into his seventh house, eventually hitting that 29-degree Cancer point, which will activate that Libra star point again. So April to May, it seems to be this kind of culmination of something. Yeah. So I do see that. So prediction will be like April to May, there will be some things brewing.
Yeah. Well, what I see prominent mainly is his Pluto at 0 Scorpio. And for the
Yeah.
whole decade of the 20s, that
Yeah.
star point is going to be hovering over that Pluto.
Yeah.
Within 1 degree right now from Libra, but exactly on it in 2026. And then by 2030, it's still only 2 degrees away. So
Yeah.
in Libra. So I think as the decade goes through its transition, I think so will Harry go through his, and it Pluto transits are, this is to Pluto rather than from Pluto, but it actually is from Pluto too, because Pluto in early Aquarius is going to be, and late Capricorn is hovering over that cusp too of squaring his own Pluto.
Yeah.
So
Midlife crisis.
it's a time for him to mine some very deep, deep feelings. And in the process of it, how much is going to be private, how much is going to be public, how much is old secrets, old feelings of
Traumas, right? Pluto.
yeah, old traumas and old feelings of even competition in the family between he and his brother, because if he called his book Spare, it means that he's, kind of feeling a little bit left out of the whole thing anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Pluto, he's having his Plutonian catharsis period now. And I'm sure there's a lot more behind the scenes that's going on with him that we have no clue of.
Mm. And he's born with a natal Venus star point being Gemini, hence the sibling rivalry or the sibling bitterness. I think that's a better way to put it. Yeah. And so now
It can be sibling cooperation, but Gemini definitely is a sibling constellation. So there's a little bit of both. There's often that love-hate relationship with the sibling in the Gemini star point feelings of, the dramas that they go through in life. Yeah.
Right. And so now let's move on to, I suppose this is just like, predictions, soon to be ex-wife. And if I look at the 5 star points, particularly looking at the 29 degree 26 minutes, Libra star point, it's pretty close to conjunct her Juno.
Yeah, that will be exact in 2030.
Yeah, but then it's already by sign is only like what, 2 degrees away or less than 2 degrees away actually.
2 degrees away.
Yeah. And the star point after that at 20 degrees 28 minutes of Leo, it's pretty tightly square her Chiron, which will be transited by Uranus on the way as well next year. So that's this kind of how do I put it? It's like from her chart, I do see a lot of money issues with Harry. That's what I do see, because Taurus is a money sign and Chiron, and with transit Uranus over it, yeah, it is not looking that great. And it is also the Leo star point is sextiling her Pluto. So there's a lot of like 4th house activation there. Like 4th house is really about endings and beginnings, and in the sign of Libra, marriage. Now I've come to some conclusions pertaining to that, at least on a macro level. And if we talk about the
what about Pluto transiting her south node in the 7th? That's got to be something pretty dramatic coming up immediately.
That as well. Yeah. And that what else is coming up for her? Let me see. Eclipses coming up over the time frame of April to May of 2023. Is there something at 29 degrees of a cardinal? Not quite close.
Pluto. How about Pluto?
Oh God. Oh yeah, and the ascendant and descendant axis. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's around the late degrees of a cardinal sign.
Yeah, transiting Pluto is what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. And the 29-degree Aries hybrid solar eclipse in April 2023, it'll be opposing her Juno.
Yeah.
It seems like it's nonstop, isn't it? Like and she's born an Aries Venus star point, by the way. Yeah.
She is an Aries star point.
Yeah. And it's
So
in her 10th house.
I had a comment on this several years ago. Princess Diana had an Aries star point.
Yeah.
And both Kate, William's wife,
Yeah.
and Meghan, Harry's wife, have Aries star points. And I had put out the notion sometime back that they were both competing in one way or another to be like Diana, but there was going to be some competition.
I don't think Kate is an Aries Venus star point because she's born in January that year.
January of what year?
1981. So the Aries Venus star point didn't phase in until April. So she's the one before that. So I think it's
Gemini.
Gemini, right.
Yeah, June of 1980 is Gemini.
Right.
April of 81 is Aries.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So Kate is a Gemini-born Venus star point individual. But then Aries is one of the arms, definitely. So it's definitely in her Venus star. And what is the lunar eclipse after that? On the 5th of May 2023. I think it's in the earlier degrees of Scorpio.
May 2023 is a full moon lunar eclipse at 14, almost 15 Scorpio.
So it'll be squaring her sun. And sun can represent husband in Leo, royalty. So there you go. Like I do see like eclipses, Venus star point, so on and so forth, all those things converging together to kind of paint like the marriage may or may not survive till King Charles's coronation. Yeah. Yeah, in early May. And by the way, I did in one of my posts say that King Charles may not even make it to his own official coronation in May of 2023. So yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. And what made you say that?
By looking at his chart and using the same methodology, I don't see it.
Okay, we'll watch for that one too.
So there's a lot of things going on in the UK pertaining to.
Yeah. Well, listen, there are a lot of things going on in the UK.
Right.
I mean, not only did Elizabeth pass, the reigning monarch for over 50 years, but also and a new monarch coming in.
Yeah.
For how long we don't know.
Right.
And there were many predictions by UK astrologers decades ago that Charles would never make it to the throne or that he would have a short-lived reign. So I don't know, there's something about that might be still in the air. And then we've had 3 prime ministers of the UK within the last couple of months. So the UK is definitely going through a crisis of leadership in terms of who is our, who is it? Who are we looking to?
I even went further down. I'm a researcher of sorts. And when the Pisces star point actually phases in the next 19, 20 years, I would go on the camera to say that we may not even have a British monarch by then.
Interesting.
Yeah. And this is via some kind of research that I've been doing. So, there you go. Like from 2 Mars root star points become 2 other star points in which Venus functioned very well in, I don't see like the winner doesn't take it all. That's what Mars is, implying to me. Yeah.
Well, this last 9 months before the Libra star came in was the Capricorn star. It started in January, and we lost a lot of leaders, political leaders in all over the world in 2022 in terms of the shifting political sands of political leadership and influence. And Capricorn is a lot about politics and, law, leadership, the administration or the running of companies. And so our countries, I should say countries, which are nowadays more modern like companies in a way, they're looking for their growth in
new direction. Yeah.
GPD.
We've also lost a lot of legends as well, Capricorn.
Yeah.
So Angela Lansbury, Murder, She Wrote.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting one. Maybe I'll get a chance to discuss her on a future broadcast.
I think we also lost Coolio. You know the song Gangster's Paradise? Way back when? With Michelle Pfeiffer. Okay, like probably there's a music icon. So
okay.
So we've lost like quite a number of icons as well. So yeah, so a lot of changes in this 2 decades. Any parting words, Arielle, for the audience? Or do you want to save it for the next episode? For discussion?
Tune in next time around. Actually, what I do want to say is that Donnie is a certified practitioner of the VenusStarPoint teachings and has done very well with it. And I encourage any astrologers who are really interested in studying this and working with the star to check out the course that's being offered. Go to my website, sophiavenus.com. You'll find dozens of instructional videos on there, past videos that we've done about learning about the star. And you can sign up for the course if you want, and optionally sign up for the exam later on. But we'd love to have you as part of the ever-growing global family of VenusStarPoint practitioners. And I appreciate all the research and work you've done, Donnie, on this. It's really kind of amazing.
Well, I'm just adding to the satellites, right? I call us satellites, VenusStarPoint practitioners and
VenusStarPoint satellites around the globe. And we are almost on every continent right now.
Wow.
I think the only one that I'm not sure, we do not have one in South America. So South America, where are you?
Calling. Well, till the next star point in Leo then, because I can't wait for that Venus retrograde in Leo. I'm pretty excited.
Oh, you are excited. Okay.
Well, yeah. I got planets in Leo.
Okay. Well, go then. Go, Donnie. Go. Go, Donnie. Go, Donnie. Go, Donnie. Go.
Right. So that's all for now.
So that's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for having me again.
Always welcome, really. Yeah. So goodbye for now.
Bye.